Good evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Paul Graney. Here are today's top stories. The US reports its first case of human-to-human transmission of the new coronavirus. Health officials say they expect more cases to be found. The World Health Organization declares the coronavirus outbreak a global health emergency. Experts explain what changes that may bring. President Trump celebrating the signing of a new trade deal with Canada and Mexico. He says the agreement will bring in more jobs and boost the state's economy. Kellyanne Conway speaks about the U.S. drug crisis. She says the current administration brought down the number of drug overdose deaths and reduced the amount of fentanyl entering the country through the mail. And scientists capture images from the sun in the highest detail ever. They're using a new telescope that sits at the top of a volcano. Health officials today reported the first U.S. case of person-to-person spread of the new coronavirus from China.
CDC is announcing the first instance of person-to-person spread of the new coronavirus in the United States.
The newly infected patient is a man in his 60s and a Chicago resident. He is the spouse of a woman who was earlier diagnosed. The man has not been to China himself, but his wife has. Both are now in stable condition. Health officials say the immediate risk to the American public is low, but they expect more cases to come.
This is a very serious public health situation. Moving forward, we can expect to see more cases. And more cases mean the potential for more person-to-person spread.
The briefing comes after President Trump formed a coronavirus task force yesterday to monitor, contain, and mitigate the spread of the virus. The Chinese authorities claim that the virus, which causes severe respiratory illness, has killed nearly 200 and sickened thousands, but experts have said the actual number could be much higher. The virus has spread to about 20 countries. Multiple countries, including the U.S., are evacuating citizens from Wuhan. A Defense Department official said on Thursday that military exchanges between the U.S. and China had stopped.
I think mill-to-mill between the United States and the PRC, basically any exchanges have been canceled.
The U.S. Center for Disease Control is currently screening passengers from Wuhan, China, at airports by checking their body temperature. But the effectiveness of the measure has been questioned, since China's Health Commission, as well as a health journal, has said that some patients are contagious before they show any symptoms. Reporting by Penny Zhou, NTD News.
The World Health Organization declared the coronavirus outbreak a global health emergency today. This amid the disease's rapid spread overseas.
The World Health Organization on Thursday declaring the coronavirus outbreak a global health emergency.
Our greatest concern is the potential for the virus to spread to countries with weaker health systems and which are ill-prepared to deal with it.
Experts say declaring emergency is alerting countries that the virus must be taken seriously in terms of its international pandemic risk. Governments will likely ramp up efforts to prevent the disease from spreading in their countries.
I think the CDC would definitely respond much more urgently in terms of stepping up screening. It's partly a message to countries. You need to take this seriously.
Declaring emergency also helps with transparency, as countries can send medical experts to China for support. But one specialist says to truly understand the outbreak, U.S. officials and experts need not only to work with health officials in the system, but also talk to doctors in hospitals treating patients.
A lot of these medical doctors, they don't have a voice in China on the Chinese media because the government did not allow them to accept media interview.
Sean said that the Chinese regime, in his words, always treat public health crises as a state secret, and many medical doctors who have first-hand information can only submit reports to scientific journals to reveal the information they have. Reporting by Juliet Song, NTD News.
Passengers and crew aboard an Italian cruise ship are breathing a sigh of relief today. They were quarantined all day over fears a Chinese couple on board was carrying the virus. The couple have since been given the all-clear. A dream cruise almost turning into a nightmare today. 6,000 passengers and 1,000 staff trapped on a boat in Italy. Doctors testing 2 Chinese nationals for the highly contagious coronavirus.
There were these 2 Chinese people on board, husband and wife, who have been wearing masks for 3 days, but nobody on board thought about the virus.
The couple joined the cruise on Sunday after flying from the Chinese region of Macau to Milan. From there, they visited France and Spain before returning to Italy, where the boat was docked today. The 54-year-old female passenger reported a fever and breathing problems, 2 symptoms of the coronavirus. Her husband was not ill, but both were kept in solitary confinement on the ship. Test results coming back late Thursday night local time, clearing the passengers. The couple are reportedly from Hong Kong, a high-risk area for infection. Chinese people have been trying to escape the virus this week by fleeing there. Cruise stocks tumbling on news of the scare, the economic impact of the virus being felt worldwide. President Trump celebrating the signing of the US-Mexico-Canada trade deal today. He was inside a manufacturing plant in Michigan. He says renegotiating trade in North America was probably the #1 reason he decided to run for president.
Speaking at a rally in Warren, Michigan Thursday night, the president remarked on the successful signing of the USMCA trade deal on Wednesday.
It's called Made in the USA. Made in the USA.
Likewise, he touted the promises he made and kept to the state during his first campaign in 2016. The signing of the new agreement will be particularly impactful for Michigan, known as the country's automotive capital. The deal increases the incentive for automakers to use parts made in North America, something that will likely boost the state's economy and bring in new jobs, which Trump highlighted in his speech. Mexico has already signed on, but the deal still needs to be approved by Canada before it can take effect. This is the president's second visit to Michigan in the past 2 weeks, and just hours after the rally, he's gearing up to speak in Des Moines, Iowa at 7 p.m. local time.
Mike Pompeo spoke about the historic relationship between the US and the UK today. He said the two countries were allies against the threat of the Chinese communist regime. This despite a current disagreement over Huawei.
The Chinese Communist Party presents the central threat of our times.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo spoke on the future of the U.S. and post-Brexit Britain's relationship at an event on Thursday. He said the U.S. and its allies must ensure they have the military and technological power to defend Western principles, which he says are under threat from the Chinese regime. Attention turned to Britain's decision to allow China's Huawei a role in its communication network. Pompeo and President Trump had been lobbying the UK to exclude the firm on security grounds. Pompeo made it clear that U.S. concerns over Huawei had not changed.
You have senior leaders in these companies that are tied to the Chinese Communist Party. We think that it's not about a technical back door. They have the front door.
He said the U.S. will make sure their own systems are guided and bound by the central ideas of freedom, transparency, and security. Pompeo also spoke with British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab about an upcoming trade deal between the U.S. and the U.K. once Britain leaves the European Union. Britain is set to leave the EU on Friday. Raab said U.S. support gave Britain a boost of confidence. Pompeo also said he hoped the U.S. and U.K. will work together on the issues that matter, like global human rights.
Life expectancy in the U.S. is up and drug overdose deaths are down. This according to Trump advisor Kellyanne Conway. She addressed the administration's efforts to stop the drug crisis at the White House today. NTD's Kevin Hogan has more.
One of the president's advisors, Kellyanne Conway, spoke at the White House on Thursday about opioid statistics in the U.S.
For the first time in 29 years, the number of drug overdose deaths has decreased.
She says this is not a coincidence, but happened through causation.
It's owing in large part to a whole-of-government approach to treat the whole person, led by President Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, and really the entire administration.
Around 70,000 Americans died from overdose last year, and about 34,000 of those deaths involved some form of fentanyl.
I wanted to share with you, as a reflection, what I consider to be the most robust and significant bipartisan accomplishment of the president's first term, H.R. 6, the SUPPORT Act.
Conway says the SUPPORT Act has brought more funding and awareness to the opioid crisis, and the STOP Act has helped prevent fentanyl from entering the country by mail.
The STOP Act has helped us increase the number of seizures of fentanyl and other synthetic opiates coming through our mail. It's up to about 38%.
She says the Customs and Border Protection has seized over 20% more fentanyl in the last fiscal year. And the Public Health Secretary says they are approaching the opioid and drug crisis as a public health issue.
it makes absolute sense for me to get the people who are pushing tons of methamphetamine to our youth across the country to get them behind bars as soon as possible.
Drug court programs provide treatment and supervision for people living with substance abuse instead of being jailed.
We support, with record funding from the White House, national drug court programs across the country and putting them in federal courts as well to make sure that people who have an addiction are not the ones that are going to jail.
Conway mentioned the administration has issued fentanyl advisories to the private sector to make sure they aren't unknowingly allowing the drug in the country by having a few blocks of fentanyl enter an otherwise legitimate supply chain. Kevin Hogan, NTD News.
Democratic presidential candidates are busy campaigning ahead of the Iowa caucuses, but 4 senators also need to attend President Trump's impeachment trial in Washington.
In the final sprint to the Iowa caucuses, the senators running for president in limbo in Washington, required by the Constitution to serve as jurors in President Trump's impeachment hearings.
I have to be here and I will be here. I'm doing my job.
Senators Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, and Michael Bennet juggling their day jobs and their 2020 campaigns. Klobuchar even flying to Iowa and back Tuesday night after the Senate trial adjourned earlier than expected, squeezing in more face time with voters. The clash of impeachment and the 2020 election creating political uncertainty. Candidates forced to cancel events and make last-minute scheduling changes.
No one thought a year ago that we were going to be in the middle of an impeachment process.
And Sanders joining his supporters at a campaign rally by phone.
So let us go forward, do everything we possibly can to win the Iowa caucus.
Voters in Iowa saying the senator's absence from their state comes at a crucial moment in the 2020 race.
Here in Iowa, we like to meet them face to face.
As Trump's impeachment trial dominates Capitol Hill, other Democratic candidates like Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg making the most of their opportunity on the ground.
Thanks for being part of this, and I'll see you on the trail.
The European Union fined NBCUniversal nearly $16 million today and found the company had legally restricted the sale of movie merchandise. The European Commission's investigation into the Comcast subsidy and other companies started in 2017. Before that, it looked into thousands of companies' e-commerce and cross-border practices in Europe. The EU wants to promote cross-border online trade to boost economic growth and catch up with the US and Asia. It's a fast-growing area of business. The European Competition Commissioner said NBCUniversal's sales curbs included restricting out-of-territory sales by licensees, restricting sales beyond allocated customers or customer groups, and restricting online sales to particular territories or to the websites of specific retailers. The EU reduced NBCUniversal's fine by 30% in return for cooperation with regulators. Its film merchandising products include mugs, bags, clothing, and toys for films like Minions, Jurassic World, and Trolls. And still to come, we delve further into the Chinese coronavirus. Global concern is rising as the situation worsens inside the outbreak's epicenter. More on that after the break.
This season, take an incredible journey through 5,000 years of culture with Shen Yun. Discover why people are calling Shen Yun a visual feast, a pleasure to the ear, an epic tale, a must-see. Shen Yun, an all-new production every year.
Viewers have described China Uncensored like The Daily Show, but about China.
At the beginning, I was super excited when I got 500 views, and now the show's grown to about 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. One episode reached 7.9 million people. I'm a little freaked out that that many people have seen my face. In 5 years, I see China Uncensored as the sole source of edutainment worldwide.
The World Health Organization today declared the coronavirus a global health crisis. But what's the situation like at Ground Zero in Wuhan? Our reporter Tiffany Meyer brings us the latest.
The situation in Wuhan, the reported epicenter of the coronavirus, continues to worsen. A young man showing signs of fever waiting 11 days before being admitted to the hospital. His sister told the Epoch Times the hospitals ran out of test kits, so her brother has not been diagnosed. More humanitarian tragedies. According to social media posts, 2 cases of suicides as family members suspected of having the virus fear infecting other family members. In the second largest epidemic in Hubei province, the director of the health commission was fired for not being able to answer questions about hospital capacity and the number of patients. Someone inside the commission said she did know the numbers, but didn't dare speak out as the numbers were too big. A new study published in The Lancet conducted an investigation of 99 patients and concluded that the death rate was at 11%. The study was conducted from January 1st to the 20th and confirmed 11 patients' conditions drastically worsened in a short period of time, and they soon died of multiple organ failures. An expert tells us that the virus can spread without the patient showing symptoms. It has now been dubbed the super spreader. Aside from a lack of capacity in hospitals, masks are also in short supply. In Shanghai, stores only sell masks to the first 300 people each day. And on January 24th, Chinese officials started to crack down on anyone spreading what they call rumors about the coronavirus. Turns out 8 people punished for spreading such so-called rumors about the virus at the beginning of January are all doctors. One of them even became infected from one of his patients. Tensions have been increasing in the coastal Fujian province. The first conflict between the public and police broke out. The first fight broke out after one villager returned from Wuhan. Police wanted to put the whole village under lockdown. About 1,000 people blocked the road, expressing their anger about the forced quarantine. Amid growing fears of the virus, factories and stores are increasingly shutting down in China. Half of the Starbucks branches in China have now closed. It's not just the coffee industry that has taken a hit. The car industry is also closing down factories. And globally, the virus continues to spread. India and the Philippines each reported their first case of the coronavirus. In France, a 5th case has been confirmed. Air France has since stopped all flights from mainland China. Amid the virus outbreak, Russia has announced it will close its borders with China in the Far East. And in America, President Trump announced yesterday the creation of a task force to monitor and combat the coronavirus.
The coronavirus outbreak could be bad news for Apple. The tech giant manufactures many of its iPhones in China, and it has suppliers in Wuhan. The company also relies on Chinese consumers. They contribute about 15% of Apple's revenue. The company struggled with weak demand and trade war supply troubles last year, but it was making up ground before the coronavirus began to spread. And still to come in other news, something more to explore in Times Square today. See what people discovered there after the break.
Factual,
honest news.
Not biased, but completely straightforward.
You're not emotionally going up and down.
Bringing morality back to newspapers.
The honest, old-fashioned journalism.
You're presenting the facts and letting the reader decide.
The Epoch Times is a fearlessly independent news media that publishes in 35 countries and 21 languages. Truth and tradition is our motto. Founded as an antidote to communist propaganda, today we're quickly becoming a household name across America. Our subscribers thank us for our relentless and unbiased coverage.
I've been part of the Epoch Times for nearly a decade because I've seen there's no other major media outlet in the world as devoted to real journalism. The Epoch Times has never had any corporate or political agenda. We only serve our readers, and we'll stay that way, no matter what.
We connected the dots around Spygate, the Obama administration's elaborate efforts against Trump's 2016 campaign. We often break news months ahead of other media on topics such as Chinese espionage, cyber warfare, subversion in America, and more. But our authoritative reporting didn't only just begin. We are tried and true.
Our paper was born out of the need to respond to a human rights catastrophe in China. It was enabled by the Communist Party's vicious and dishonest propaganda. We soon learned that Western media were picking up and amplifying the lies. The Epoch Times' truthful reporting exposed the Communist Party's lies for the Chinese people. But it also helped protect our Western audience. It disabused for them the lies in this propaganda. Our reporting has also helped uncover how communist ideas are taking root in our own country. The Epoch Times started as a small and unknown publication in one of the toughest media markets in the world. We have built it through hard work and trial and error.
We were founded in the year 2000 in Atlanta, Georgia, by Chinese Americans who had fled communist China. Our independent reporting came at a price. Our staff members in China were jailed and tortured for their reporting, some for as long as 10 years. Because our founders believed in truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance, the principles of the spiritual practice fallen gone. They felt such sacrifices were worth it to ensure for the world an independent, honest media, one that would report on the most pressing issues of our time. As many major media are losing people's trust and declining further every day, the fastest growing newspaper in America delivers truth and tradition. Look us up today.
Is it possible to find solitude in New York, especially in the heart of the city in Times Square? NTD's Melina Weisskopf takes us there to find out.
How can you find stillness and undivided attention in the dense, hyper-stimulated area of New York City? That's one of the questions the designers had in mind when they created this year's Times Square Valentine heart.
We wanted to find a way to bring that combination of the incredible kinetic overstimulation, but also some slowness and attention together.
The variety of reflected images from the mirrors is meant to capture the city, while its outline gives the viewer a break from the chaotic atmosphere.
In the world with over 300,000 people coming every day, we wanted to find a bit of the sky, so a connection to the environment that is around us.
This is the 12th annual Times Square Valentine Heart Competition. Every year they have a different design, and this year the designers put a lot of purpose and intent behind really creating this piece so that the viewers have to kind of engage with the piece of work and really observe what it is.
It was just questionable. We didn't know what it was. We were just wondering.
We were standing behind it and we were like, what is that? But then we come around and look at the front and it looks unique. So
after some time, they see that the reflections of themselves and those around them is actually what makes up the image of the heart.
One of the things that is most important to celebrate about love is that it's the most universal value of all.
And that is exactly what people from all around the world will come to this spot to celebrate this Valentine's Day. Melina Weisskopf, NTD News, New York.
Scientists can now see the sun's surface in greater detail than ever before. This thanks to a new telescope that sits on top of a Hawaiian volcano.
Images from a powerful telescope in Hawaii show the surface of the sun in the highest detail yet. The National Science Foundation's Daniel K. Inouye Solar Telescope sits on top of Haleakala volcano in Maui. It can reveal features of the sun as small as 18 miles across. It captures detail with the world's largest solar mirror at 13 feet. A pattern of turbulent boiling gas is shown covering the sun, which is some 93 million miles from Earth. Footage shows visible cell-like structures around the size of Texas, and hot plasma rises and cools and then sinks below the sun's surface. The director of the National Science Foundation says the telescope can improve scientists' understanding of space weather and help forecasters better predict solar storms. Magnetic eruptions on the sun can disrupt satellites, disable GPS, impact air travel, bring down power grids, and cause blackouts. Scientists hope this will begin a 50-year study of the sun as more instruments become operational on the telescope to explore the sun in even greater detail.
And coming up next, 96 puppies gather to film the Puppy Bowl. The annual game is in its 16th year and broadcast right before the Super Bowl. More on what it takes to play puppy football after the break.
Are you tired of newspapers spinning the truth and pushing false narratives? And are you looking for honest coverage of
Spygate, the true story of collusion, or the truth behind the crisis at our southern border, or how the Chinese Communist Party is working to subvert America and our way of life, then you need to check out the Epoch Times newspaper. It's independent, nonpartisan, and it doesn't push any political agendas. Just go to readepoch.com and try it yourself for a full month for just $1. You'll absolutely love it.
Our investigative reporters at the Epoch Times have spent 18 months uncovering the biggest political scandal in modern history. We connected the dots around Spygate, the actions by Obama-era officials against Trump's 2016 presidential campaign. Join me on Declassified as we bring you up-to-date developments on this unfolding scandal.
Puppy Bowl has become a Super Bowl Sunday tradition, gathering around the television screen and watching Team Rough and Team Fluff bumble into the end zone.
The Puppy Bowl is back for its 16th year. This year, 96 playful puppies from animal shelters from across the U.S. and around the world will run, sniff, and scratch on the football field. Puppy Bowl referee Dan Schachner said the rules are simple.
It's drag a chew toy or kick a chew toy into the end zone. Doesn't matter which end zone, doesn't matter which chew toy. As long as you're there, it counts.
Months before the Puppy Bowl airs on Animal Planet, filming is underway inside a large set in New York City. It is a gigantic production requiring casting dozens of volunteers and multiple days of shooting.
The executive producer has a wall up with the pictures of all the dogs that we're casting. We want to make sure we have a variety of different kinds of dogs because everybody loves different is their favorite breed or kind of dog.
Each puppy in the Puppy Bowl is available for adoption. One plucky puppy named Sol came from an animal shelter in Cartagena, Colombia. While she is still learning the rules of American football, her handler said Sol has other strengths.
She checked out every dog that came on the field. We like to stand in the touchdown area, wait for a pass.
For animal lovers, it is the ultimate tailgating event. The game airs at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, just before the other big game on Super Bowl Sunday.
And that's all for this evening's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Paul Graney.